Hi, and welcome to DS Tech Mirror. If you're new to this channel, here's a quick heads up. This channel is dedicated to deliver content related to SharePoint online customizations. And today, we are going to see how we can do SharePoint group operations using Power Automate. That too in a bulk way. There are times when you have to create a number of SharePoint groups or add a number of users to a particular or multiple SharePoint groups. So in that case, manual approach takes a lot of time and sometimes can be frustrating. So let's see how Power Automate can be helpful in this scenario. Before we start with making the flow, let me tell you what all prerequisites that we would require. Initially, we have to create a list of SharePoint groups that needs to be added in our site. So these are the SharePoint groups that I would like to create. And group description, this is optional. And permission, so this is the permission ID that I have. This one represents full permissions. This one, the read permission. And all these are contribute permissions. So from here, from this reading this Excel sheet, I will be picking up the data like group name, group description, and what permission should this group have in my site. And I have my site ready also. This is my site and this is the site settings page. I can show you what currently the groups that I have in my site settings. So these are the groups that I have currently. Here we will be adding more groups which I have listed in my Excel sheet. Now I have both my site ready and my Excel ready. And I also tell you that I am going to keep this Excel inside my OneDrive for easy access. The second thing that you have to do is mark the location of your content and make it a table. Why am I doing this? I am doing this because when you access this Excel sheet from your flow, there is a way to do it, and there in one of the field properties, it would be retrieving the table from the Excel sheet. I will again emphasize this point when we reach that action step. Now with all my prerequisites ready, so let's go to Power Automate, create an instant flow, name it as bulk create SP groups, manual trigger for a flow create. In the next step, we have to retrieve the data from our Excel. So let's select this action, list rows present in a table. That is why I have made the data area into a table so that using this action, we can retrieve the content inside a table. This field represents the location where we have saved our Excel sheet. So I have saved it in my OneDrive. This is my file name and table. When I populate this file name, my tables inside this Excel sheet will be populated over here. Table 1. You can have multiple tables inside the same Excel sheet and you can access the details and process it inside your Power Automate using this action. For this implementation of Power Automate, we need not go for any of the advanced properties of here. So I'm skipping it. Now, till now we have got the data. Let's add a looping option over here. So for each data, I'm going to read each row and I will be getting the inputs from each row and I'll be creating a SharePoint group. So my output, I have to add the output of my previous action over here, which is values, list of items. Add an action. Here we are going to create a SharePoint group using an HTTP request. I have my site ready, and here we are doing a create operation, so I have to make it as a post. Then my URI would be headers. We have two headers, accept and content type. Here in the accept, we are accepting the data in the format of JSON. So the same will be applied for the below one also. Next, in the body field, we have to enter the details of the group name and group description that we will be using to create the SharePoint group. So for that, we have a special format in this way. And here in type, it is SharePoint group. Title, here is the place where you have to enter group name. So you can enter group name over here, and under the description, group description. So by this way, you will be able to create all the SharePoint groups. Next, we have to add SharePoint permissions. For that, we have to create another HTTP request. And this time it is for permissions. This, you know the drill. We have to do the same thing which we have done in the first step. Here, in order to provide permissions for that particular group which has created, we need some reference from the response of this command. So the response, as we know here, it is of JSON format, and hence it needs parsing. Either you can collect that information directly from the variable like this. You can go to the expression and you can have it over here. You can mention body of send an HTTP request, and all that expression you can provide it over here and get the information. Or otherwise, in an easy way, you can add another step over here, add an action. There is an action called Parse JSON. And the content here is the body, which is the outcome of the previous action. And schema over here, you have to provide the schema of the output. An easy trick to provide the schema a correct format for the response, you can do one simple action. For right now, you can remove all these things. You can run the SharePoint group for only one item, You can run this action for one group and get the response, capture the response, and use it for parsing. So let me do that. Let me copy this action. Let me delete it. Copy the action again. Delete it. And from my clipboard, you can add this action again. And this action will be having all the settings that we have done. For group name, let me give a sample group name, which I'll be deleting it later. Sample description. So now my flow contains a trigger and it creates a group. The purpose of this step is to run this action for one group and capture the response JSON, which will be our schema format in the next step. Let me save it and let us test it. My flow has run successfully. So this was a simple step and I got the response over here. This is the response format. I'll copy it and paste it here. Let me go back to my site and check it. If I have received, if I got this, yes. I have got the group over here with the sample description. So, okay, let us go back here, edit it, add the other steps which we have removed it previously from the clipboard. All the properties that we have stored before is intact. And here I should add and apply each. With value, which is the list of items, and copy this inside my apply to each. And instead of sample group, I'll be having the dynamic values. Next, I'll be having parse JSON as an action. And my content would be the body, which is the outcome of the previous action. And sample template is what we have copied before. So this sample template is the outcome of the previous one. You can see all the data. This is the template that we have along with the data. And please don't think that we will be having this data intact when we generate a sample template. All this data will be erased and you can see the schema right now, how it has been formed. All the data that we saw previously, like you can see sample description, sample group, sample name, all these, only the schema is maintained and the data has been removed and the type of each data has been specified over here. Automatically this is being generated and we have a schema ready. This action parses the JSON, which is the response JSON that we get from the previous step, and collects it and stores the data inside these fields. In the next step, in order to retrieve the group, we need group ID. And that one will be this ID over here. So if you want to see it again, our ID is 18, which represents the group ID. And we will be using this field in our next step in order to provide access to that group which is created. So in our next action, we'll be having an HTTP request action using which we'll be providing permissions. And doing the same drill over here instead of get post, and the URI would be role assignments, add role assignment, and here we have principal ID and role ID. So inside the principal ID, this ID refers to the group ID. So I'm going to add a dynamic field over here. So this is the outcome of the parse JSON. So we are not going with this ID as we have already seen. This ID represents the group ID, and role definition was this one. Remember, it is stored in our Excel. And the same headers In the next step, we will be adding users to this group. Here, underscore API slash web slash site rules. Here I'll be having the group ID, users. The headers will be the same thing, same drill over here. And inside the body, we have to specify the user that we have to add inside this group. So similar to what we have done over here, let me copy this. Paste it over here. But we have few modifications to the fields. Here, instead of group, we have user, and we will be having login name and user. And we are adding the user. Here in this implementation, we are going to add the same user inside each groups. Suppose if you want to automate this also, you can pick multiple, you can create a field over here named users, and you can add multiple users over here, different users over here, and you can pick it from here, just like we did for our group name and group description. Let me save it and let us test. From here, you can see all the data that is returned from our Excel. And under the apply to each, so we have 12 iterations, which is the 12 groups that we have to create, and it has 12 iterations. And you can see in the first iteration, it has picked up the data for SP Group Manager and the description also. And it has passed the information. And here in the next step, we are picking this ID to add the group permissions. You can see here. And finally, we are adding the users to this group. Okay, let's go to our groups and check. All my groups are created over here. Now let us go inside the manager group and check the permissions. The user is added. Now let's check the permissions. The permission level is full control, just as we have given in this permission role ID. Let's randomly check few other groups as well. HR has read permissions. So inside HR group also, I have added the same user. It has read permissions. Also guys, please remember, suppose if you are adding groups in your subsite, make sure that you have breaking the permissions from the top level site. That is, you have unique permissions on that site in order to add the groups. So this is the general SharePoint rule that you have to break the inheritance and then add the SharePoint groups. That's all for today's video, guys. In this video, we have seen how to get data from our Excel and process that data in order to create SharePoint groups and add permission to the SharePoint group and also add users to the SharePoint groups. If you like the content I'm sharing, please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Also, you can contact us in email, Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for watching our video. Much love. Keep learning.